This is one of the oldest, the longest, but one of the most dusty train ride experiences you may ever have in Kenya. We are heading to Nanyuki from Nairobi aboard this train, and it takes about 7 to 9 hours to get to its destination depending with where you are boarding from. I'm boarding from the Thika station where the train is supposed to arrive at 14 minutes past 11, though this time it arrived at 11 a.m. sharp. So the train may or may not follow the exact schedule on the timetable. Once you get in, you choose where you want to sit in either of the coaches. There are 5 coaches, and this is how the seats look like. One coach is for the VIP section, and there's also one coach where the seats are different, as you can see. I would say this was the most comfortable coach, as the seats are a bit softer than the other coaches, and you also do not face a lot of people. You only face around 2 or 3 people. The fare for this train to Nanyuki is 400 shillings for the economy and 1000 shillings for the VIP, but that price reduces as you approach Nanyuki. Since I boarded the train at Thika station, I only paid 260 shillings all the way to Nanyuki. Now you do not have to travel all the way to Nanyuki. You can board at any station and alight at any station of your choice. You can board at Thika and alight at Sagana, or even board at Nairobi and come alight at Thika. I noticed that this train was mostly used by locals traveling around Nyeri, Murang'a and Kiambu with their goods, mostly farm produce, and only a few of us were actually travelers just coming for this train for the experience and to see the views. There are more than 20 stations and stopovers where people alight, some board. There are also school children, there are also people moving or relocating with their household goods. But the people on this train are very friendly, including the staff too. But one thing I seem to notice is like the people on this train seem to know each other. Maybe it's because they use this train every week. The train only leaves on Friday from Nairobi and comes back to Nairobi, leaving Nanyuki on Sunday. Now after leaving Thika, it takes about 30 minutes to get to the next stations, and one thing that I cannot insist enough is that this train is very dusty, and almost everyone who boards this train comes on putting a mask. Luckily, I always carry a mask whenever I travel, and at some point I had to discard the first one and put on another one because this train is very dusty. And one thing I noticed is that you should not come here while wearing anything white or cream. By the time you arrive, you look like someone who spent the whole day at the farm. Most of the countryside that you pass will be mostly green, especially when coming from Kiambu, Murang'a and Nyeri counties. You'll be passing through farms filled with maize, banana plants, dara, the napier grass, and you'll also get to spot the Del Monte farms filled with pineapples and mango trees. Though there are many stations and stops along the way, you cannot get off because the train only stops for around less than 2 minutes, so only new people get on the train and then we continue on our journey. And when the train gets to Sagana, people can finally get off, go use the toilets and go buy food. Sagana was the only station where we found people selling food outside the station, and they were actually not allowed to get inside, so we were the ones to go outside and buy the food. The food variety is very limited, which is mostly boiled maize and sodas. We stopped at Sagana for more than an hour because they had to change the engine of the train. So over here is the VIP. Now before you get to Sagana to stop and buy food, you might actually be lucky if someone gets on the train to sell you some food like boiled eggs before they get off at the next station. So carry some food with you because you might not be lucky until you get to Sagana. And in case you get pressed while on the train has two tiny toilets that you can go relieve yourself. I believe one was for the gents and the other was for the ladies, though they were not clearly marked. Now this tiny hole is where you pee and also poo, and it goes directly onto the train tracks. There's also clean water that you can use to wash your hands or wash your face to rinse off the dust. I believe this one was meant to dispense soap, though it was empty, and there's this part where you can flash water to get rid of that. If you're a tall person or a chubby person, you'll definitely not be comfortable in this toilet, especially because the train keeps swaying from left to right. Sometimes you even feel like you are going to fall on one side. And as you get closer to Nanyuki, the countryside actually starts changing. The time is also about 4 to 5 in the evening. Most people are now embarking from the train, and very few people are actually getting onto the train. You no longer see the very green farms and vegetations. Is now empty brown fields filled with shrubs. You've left behind the Nyeri, Kiambu and Murang'a counties. You're now into Laikipia County. Also, most stations along this track are very, very old. I believe they are from the colonial era, but they are very, very old and dilapidated. If you've ever pitied police stations, then please stop pitting police stations and start pitting on these railway stations, because most of them were actually built of mabati. They were very, 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 very old. Some of them looked okay, but for most of them, they were looking very bad. We are finally in Nanyuki, baby. After 7 hours of traveling, we were finally in Nanyuki. We left the Thika station at 11 and arrived in Nanyuki just a few minutes to 6 p.m. So for people who boarded the train from Nairobi, it means they traveled for 9 straight hours. I was so excited to be in Nanyuki. This was my first time being in Nanyuki and in Laikipia County, but I was not prepared for the cold in Nanyuki. So if you're planning on coming to this trip, please carry heavy sweaters or jackets, or just carry heavy clothing. I would rate this trip an 8 out of 10. The experience was so nice. The views not so much, but they were quite good. The people on the train were also good, except for the dust. Everything was quite nice, even though the journey was so long. I'm already used to such long journeys, so it was not a problem for me. So an 8 out of 10. See you on our next adventure and trip, and please subscribe. If you have any questions, you can ask in the comment section.